Hey, I'm Adam Jusko, and this is Strictly Credit Cards, where we talk about strictly credit cards. Subscribe, why don't you? In this video, we are going to do a sort of updated review on the Apple Card credit card. The card has been out for almost a year now, and so we are going to look at some of the newer features that have been added since the big celebrated launch and see what we think about the card overall. The Apple Card credit card is a no annual fee cash back MasterCard that gives you that cash back using the following formula. You get 2% cash back on all purchases you make using Apple Pay via your iPhone or your Apple Watch. You're going to get 3% cash back on purchases of Apple products and services. You also get 3% cash back on purchases at a handful of partner retailers, those being Walgreens, Uber and Uber Eats, T-Mobile, Nike, and Dwayne Reed stores. Any other purchases you make with the card are only going to get you 1%, and in fact the only way to even make purchases that aren't Apple Pay purchases is if you actually actively request a physical Apple Card. So you don't get the Apple Card right off unless you actually ask for it, and when you actually use the card out there in the real world and don't use Apple Pay, you're only going to get 1% cash back on those purchases, which is not particularly competitive at all compared to other credit cards on the market. No bonus opportunity on the Apple Card. Many credit cards do offer new cardholder bonuses. If you spend X amount on the card in the first 3 months of having it, you would get a cash bonus. You don't have that here. I know there was a sort of short-term Walgreens bonus. It wasn't very big. I think you got $50 if you spent a certain amount at Walgreens. As I make this video, that does not exist, but depending on when you are watching it, it is possible that bonus could be back or other ones. But as I make this video, no new cardholder bonus. The cashback that you earn on the Apple Card gets updated daily, which is different than most cashback credit cards that are just going to update that once per month. That money goes onto your Apple Cash card within your Apple Wallet on your iPhone or other Apple device. You can use that money in terms of redeeming it toward a statement credit to pay off, some of the money that you owe on the card, or you can have money transferred to your bank account. Real quick on the physical card itself, it is made of titanium, which Apple made kind of a big deal out of when it came out, versus plastic that most credit cards are made of. That won't really do anything for you other than it's got maybe a little satisfying heft and a little satisfying noise when you bang it against other things. But remember, it only gives you 1% cash back when you actually use it anywhere. So for any purchases that aren't going to be those Apple Pay purchases that get you 2% or 3%, you're probably going to want to use a different credit card. Now, one of the newer features that Apple has rolled out since that initial launch of the Apple Card is the ability to not only finance your Apple purchases and get that 3% cash back, but to do so at a 0% interest rate and draw your payments out over 24 months. So you essentially get a 0% installment loan for 2 years. You get that 3% cash back. As I make this video, you can do that with the iPhone, but you can't do it with other Apple devices. However, there are reports out that Apple is planning on extending that to their other devices as well. It may be 12 months or 6 months versus the 24 months on the iPhone, depending on the purchase price of the various Apple products, but that's the plan as I make this video. Now, when the Apple Card launched, Apple made sort of a big deal about certain features of the card acting as if they were sort of, reimagining what a credit card could be. And so I'm going to talk about 3 of them here that Apple thinks are really great and I think are only okay. The first one is pretty good, and that is the lack of fees on the card. So like I said earlier, there is no annual fee on the card, but there are no late fees on the card. There are no foreign transaction fees, no other fees of that nature that you might expect from many credit cards. So that's a pretty good thing. Second is privacy and security. Apple has various safeguards in place within their Apple Pay ecosystem to protect your information. In terms of the physical card, there's not even actually a credit card number here on either side of the card. So the only way you can actually see your own credit card number is to go into the Apple Wallet and get it. So maybe if you were going to make a purchase over the phone or whatever, that's how you would actually find it. So that is a nice thing, but in many ways, the privacy and security that comes with credit cards are more to protect the credit card issuer than they are to protect the credit card holder. So this one is nice, but it's not something that I consider to be a huge plus. And then third is sort of the Apple Wallet and the experience that you have around your financial picture and your payment schedule with the card. So when you have the Apple Card, especially if you are using it as your primary card, you get an experience here of sort of a almost like a personal finance software that does a pretty nice job of, tracking what you purchased and lets you see very easily through color codes and other things of that nature where you're spending your money and all of these sort of things. Apple has also made it so that your payment due date is always going to be the end of the month, so it's not like you have a due date that you can't remember, so you know that that is going to be the case with this card. These are nice things. Again, if you use this card as your primary card, I think it can be especially nice because you would be tracking a lot of your spending. But if you're going to use the Apple Card and other credit cards, you're only really getting the tracking on your Apple Card. So, it's not like it is a piece of software that is going to, track all of your personal finances. And I don't mean to knock any of these things. So if it sounds like I'm negative at all on any of it, it's only because Apple makes such a big production of acting like they are doing something that is groundbreaking that you have to come at it with a little bit of a degree of skepticism to see if what they are promising is really all that amazing. Now, you should always pay off all your credit cards in full every month, but if for some reason you can't, the interest rate that you're going to get on the Apple Card could be anywhere from 10.99% to 21.99% as I make this video. So that's based on your credit history. The 10.99%, pretty good in today's market. 21.99%, nothing to get too excited about. Apple, again, sort of made it sound like their interest rates were going to be significantly less than many other credit cards on the market. And that might be true on the low end, but otherwise, not so much. Now, one of the very nice features about the Apple Card, especially for people whose credit scores may not be as high, is the fact that Apple and their issuing card partner Goldman Sachs have made the card more accessible to a lot of people that maybe would not be able to get a card that has rewards that are as nice as what the Apple Card offers. So if you have a little lower credit score, it's hard to say exactly what that score is, where they do accept versus where they don't accept. But if you are under 700, you still have a shot at this card. If you're between 650 and 700, probably a much better shot than if you're under 650, but they definitely do have a little bit lower hurdle to get over for acceptance. And the other nice thing is if you apply for the card and you are declined, you will not get a hit on your credit report. So they essentially do what is known as a soft pull in terms of giving you an acceptance or declining you. And if they decline you, well, then they don't do that hard inquiry and you don't get any points off of your credit score. On the other hand, if you go through the process and you actually get the card, then you are going to have that hard inquiry and you are going to have that small ding on your credit score. By the way, if you want to apply for the Apple Card, you can only do so through your iPhone or through an iPad, and it has to be a somewhat more recent model that has the correct Apple Wallet software. If you have a much older iPhone, it may not work. Now, if you do have what you need to have in order to apply, instant approval is available for many people, so you can start using the card right away. If you actually want the physical card, obviously you'll have to wait for them to send that to you. Overall, the Apple Card does have some nice features, but if you're zeroing in particular on the rewards, you can do better in other places. So that 3% on Apple products obviously is good, but the 2% on Apple Pay only matches the 2% that you could get on the best flat cashback cards out there, like the Citi Double Cash or the PayPal Cashback MasterCard, and those ones don't require you to use Apple Pay in order to do them. So you actually know that you would be able to use those cards anywhere where Apple Pay is not available in all places. If Apple had more of those 3% partners like Walgreens and Uber and T-Mobile, well then maybe I would say they have enough of those 3% partners to make the card even more worth it and maybe more competitive with some of the other cards out there. It's not a bad card, and I actually think if you're someone whose credit score maybe is too low to get your hands on some of the best cashback cards, you might have a better shot at this one. So that obviously is a good thing. So sometimes I feel like I'm a little hard on Apple because of the fact that they have such, marketing pixie dust and they sort of act like everything they have done is always groundbreaking. This is not groundbreaking, but it is a pretty decent card, and if you are someone who very much is invested in the Apple ecosystem, well then it definitely makes sense to get it. If you're not, if Apple is not something that is particularly special to you, well then you should probably look elsewhere on the market and look at cashback cards that are more easily usable across the whole spectrum of purchases that you might make. So that's it. Apple's made some improvements to the Apple Card since it first launched, but not as many as I would have hoped to see. I would like to hear your thoughts if you want to give them in the comments section below. Otherwise, I thank you for watching and we'll see you next time.